biosecurity breaches have there been in Kāpiti Island in, say, the last 20 years?
Touch wood. So, in terms of actual breaches, we have had one, and that breach cost us $1 million and took 3 years to manage.
And that was the stoat that was identified.
Three stoats.
Three stoats. They were likely identified as getting over there via driftwood, similar to the possum that was caught surfing out there the next year.
But the point I'd make about that is we don't look at biosecurity just at Kāpiti. We think about biosecurity at Mana, we think about it at Matiu, we think about it nationally around the country. And at the moment, they're dealing with incursion after incursion in Auckland and the Hauraki. And the biosecurity environment changes constantly. It won't be long before plague skinks or rainbow skinks will be here in Kāpiti. They're in Manawatu. They're a serious threat to our lizard populations on the island. We have myrtle rust. So that changes all the time, and hence there's a need to consider our three responses, which are how well can we respond, how well are we doing surveillance, and then the last one, I guess, which is in question today, how well we're doing quarantine. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Angus, thanks for coming along today and being available to answer some questions. I've got a little bit of a different one, and it's around the biosecurity option. What I'm interested to know is if one of the operators, if this project was to proceed and one of the operators came to DOC with a biosecurity option that was as good as or better than the standard of their own offering, would DOC still consider that?
So DOC would have to consider that, and that would be considered at the time in the context of what was on offer at that point. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Angus.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. Thanks, Angus. Hi, and welcome to DOC in your new position. And look, I wanted to ask you if you could elaborate a little bit on DOC's role ongoing on the new site as far as pest control on the beach and the wetland environment there around the Te Toki river mouth or stream mouth. What you would envisage that would involve?
So currently we fund some work around Argentine ants, because Argentine ants are a significant threat to the island, and I think that's 2 or 3 times a year. There's a pest management company that manages that site currently. I would imagine that would be ongoing. I would imagine that we would work with yourselves and whoever else was invested there, concessionaires, to support that. I know that we've worked with the Coopers on that in terms of some trap provision and things. So yeah, that, I guess in that sense that would be the approach.
Councillor Prabanov.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm just following up on line of questioning that Councillor Cootes was asking about. So if an operator came to you and their biosecurity methods and processes met your needs, so they would not have to use the new biosecurity facilities in the proposed gateway?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we would have to consider their proposal.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions. Thank you very much for your time. The next speaker, can I have generally from Creative Kāpiti?
Oh, the relief. I made it before school. Just had to say that. Right. Tēnā tātou. Ko tēnā ko toko ingoa, ko no te Waipanamu ko toko kāinga, ko Aore ki ko toko manga, ko Waitaki ko toko awa, Inaine ko Parapumu ko toko kāinga. Nō reira, today on behalf of the Creative Kāpiti Economic Development Cluster Group, with 500 members, I wish to acknowledge the earlier presentations this morning from our three iwi, Ngā Hapu o Otaki, Ngāti Toa Rangatira, Te Ati Awa, ki whakarongatai. We share their desire for partnership working and acknowledge the mana bestowed in the gifting of the name Te Urihi. Our group's founding philosophy is ma mahitahi ka ora te iwi. By working together, we move forward. This is also a hallmark of the recently launched Kāpiti Economic Development Strategy that our group and I personally helped to develop. Kotahitanga, strengthening partnerships and leadership, and Manaakitanga, supporting key sectors, two pillars in the strategy for which our group is listed as an action delivery partner, and as industry, we have a vested interest in the purako, or the storytelling of our creative sector. Its rich talent and skill base as New Zealand's fourth largest creative workforce. Our vision is that the Kāpiti Coast is recognised as a leading creative destination. And to borrow John Barrett's phrase earlier this morning, the opportunity is great in terms of welcoming our manuhiri to our district and, in the words of David Perks, to develop a focal point. The problem is that the current concept of the 75 square metre building that is touted as a district-wide visitor attraction centre, and the feedback from my group in light of the enormous creative tourism opportunity before us is that that building is too small to really leverage that enormous creative tourism opportunity. And especially as a focal point, whilst our members see it working as a gateway for visitors to the island, overwhelmingly they believe it's the wrong location and misses the opportunity such as provided by visitor centres in other regions. By way of example, Whanganui with visitors access a spacious facility with a dedicated gallery upstairs, and we don't have a community gallery in Paraparaumu. Nearly a year ago, we offered to work with the advisory board and council staff to develop the district-wide creative tourism aspect through the building's design and functionality. 10% of the budget, as I understand it, is dedicated to the arts project, so it's surprising that engagement with our strong creative community has yet to take place beyond the public art panel. We did receive a briefing last week, however there is no detail about the exhibition space available or how the arts component will be realised inside the building. We want our visitors to stay longer, spend more and to feel connected to our district. Tourism New Zealand and many other regions in New Zealand are developing projects to cater for the high-value tourist, not the volume. The lack of promotion of our combined existing creative tourism activities will not be addressed with this project. However, we are hopeful that our submission to the destination plan will be the change required. In the meantime, we will continue to plan and deliver our creative visitor attraction projects, and leave you with this quote from Crown Relocation's publication earlier today. It was a blog titled "Why the Kāpiti Coast is the Place to Be." If you're a creative sort, you'll fit right into the artistic vibe of Paikakariki, home to actors, dancers, filmmakers, sculptors and more. Visit our friends at Creative Kāpiti to explore the arts or get connected with creative professionals in the region. Finally, to finish, I just want to talk about the wellbeings in the Act. According to Creative New Zealand, bringing back the wellbeings will mean councils have a legislative responsibility to promote the cultural wellbeing of their communities. Arts, culture and creative activity have a huge contribution to make, as well as other aspects of wellbeing. And today we've not heard any conversation from anyone about the creative wellbeing. Our group can tell you that in response to COVID, the demand for creative tourism, for workshops, to be able to get around our awesome creative character townships has gone through the roof. We need a big plan to support that, and we need to connect and have a decent visitor attraction offering for people when it rains 365 days of the year as a creative indoor activity. Kia kaha.
Councillor McCann.
Kia ora, through you, Mr. Mayor. Jenna, you mentioned that no one's asked about creative wellbeing. Could you tell us more about creative wellbeing, because this gives you a little bit of an opportunity? And I'd like you to focus on two things, if you may. Does this project give you some, is there some potential for supporting that, or does the project not support it?
If you vote yes, we will support it. If you vote no, we will support it. Let me quantify that. If you vote yes, the 75 square metre building, you have three options before you. If you choose the option without the cafe or the brasserie, we're hoping that gives a little bit more space to do a 20 square metre gallery. We have a pop-up gallery in Kiwi Bank, which has a 15 metre wall and a 6 metre wall, so we've got a fair idea of how much space we need. But it's still not what we would call a district-wide offering. We already have New Zealand's smallest district gallery. Why give them a really small visitor attraction centre? I didn't quantify the no, sorry. So the no is, and I must quantify that to say, we're not speaking here about public art and what's outside the building. We're talking about the opportunity of what's inside that 75 square metre visitor attraction centre.
Thank you, and you're very brave to being the only person to say you want a bigger building.
It's the sector, it's not me. I'm not here personally.
Councillor Compton.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, you mentioned that the 75 square metre building is too small to truly leverage for creative communities. Are there any other projects or initiatives around the district that, in your opinion, would be better suited for the creative communities to be able to, I guess, sort of strut their stuff, for want of a better phrase?
The piece of the picture that's missing is we haven't had a discussion about what a district-wide visitor attraction centre looks like and where that's the best town, the best place, the best location. I guarantee you we're going to get 30,000 visitors at Whale Song in the first 6 months. Our visitors will want to walk to a visitor centre. We haven't, as a group, decided on an alternative location, but when you look elsewhere in New Zealand, you usually find it with good transport links. You usually find it in the heart of a city centre. And for us, as an organisation, we have 3 strategic goals. All of them relate to visitor attraction. All of them relate to this particular project. Just as a reminder, it's about strengthening creative practice, it's about diversifying and increasing our audience, and it's about increasing opportunity for sustainable income. 30% of our business is a sole traders, and most of those, many of them, are in the creative sector.
I'm surprised Martin's light didn't go up when you mentioned Whale Song. But have you had any discussions with them about any potential space in their project?
We're talking with them. One of the actions in the Kāpiti Economic Development Strategy, tagged to Creative Kāpiti, with our supporting partners council being one of those, is to explore the feasibility of a creative hub. Look, it's not rocket science. You know, people have been made redundant. People are hurting. We're organising workshops with the Tertiary Education Commission who came to us. They're going to be in Otaki and Parapumu to onboard people to their creative careers. The demand on our services has gone through the roof. So the opportunity as well, if you look at online sales and in-person sales of visual arts, we have the people who sculpt the birds, you know, the Kāpiti Marine Reserve. We have all of those people here. We need to give them the opportunity to connect. And, you know, as I said earlier, we share that philosophy with iwi around that visitor, end-to-end experience for the visitor, being able to connect with our region through all of the awesome things that we offer. How will this visitor centre connect in with Māori land, with Tote Modern Gallery, with Mahara, with Te Raukara, with Paikakariki? We have no plan around that. This is a silo proposal, developed as a silo. We have had no consultation. We had a briefing last week. That was awesome. We would love to continue the conversation with iwi. We would love to continue the conversation with council staff, with the advisory group. We're here to support you. We are here to support you. In the words of the Earthquake Memorial, together we're stronger. It is the philosophy of our group.
Thank you.
Councillor Coates.
Generally good to see you here, and I'm just mindful of time.
Thank you.
Just your comments around Whale Song, which I think we all agree is a fantastic project. We've got a project here that we're considering today that, if green lighted, to use Councillor McCann's words, would be open in 2022 for the creative sector to be involved in that and display art. Are you aware of the timeframes for Whale Song? When would it be likely that people would be walking through there? And
they start construction in September this year. I'm looking to develop a sculpture park. Through the public art budget, we have commitment to for council to spend up to $15,000 every year commissioning sculpture. We're looking to launch that as part of our Design and Arts Festival. So, in terms of the time frame, I can't speak for Whale Song here today, but we talk closely with the sector, with everyone who is developing new and trying to leverage existing creative tourism. That's the feedback in our 2-page plan, which we've given through to Kylie as part of the destination plan process. We're good to go.
Next question I've got, the last question I've got, and I appreciate you're newish to the area, so I think I kind of know.
Well, 8 years now.
Yeah. So are you aware of the review commissioned by KCDC on the best location for, and at the time it was an eyesight, but the report refers to the Kāpiti Gateway, and it assessed, it was 64-page report that investigated all the possible locations through Parapara for the best location for eyesight/visitor gateway centre.
I'm not aware of the report. When was it?
In 2012, 2013.
No,
so
sorry,
I'm
I'm not
happy to
aware
share
of
that
that.
with you via email.
I think a lot's changed since then.
Yeah.
Our creative population's grown.
Yeah. So look, I'm happy to share that with you. It does identify the location in question today as the preferred site way back in 2013, but happy to email that to you.
That's great. I mean, I would just add that in other parts of New Zealand where you have an arts centre or an exchange or an incubator, or in Palmerston North, a square edge building, 4-storey building, tenanted out, it's visitors that are in that building as well as residents. That's what we're talking about. That's the opportunity that we have as a region to really claim our spot as a leading creative destination. Yes, it takes investment, it takes vision, but first we need a conversation, and that's what we can't get.
Thank you very much. There's no other questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now I need to put Liz Coe's hat on, I believe.
Russell Spratt, with your different hat on, the Tiateawa representative from the Gateway Centre project.
I believe Liz Coe was at 12:10 and I was at 12:05. I have to go, and it's one page for Liz. I can speak before I go.
She's not on the list.
Russell, are you okay? I think, Russell, do you want to advise?
If you give it to the staff.
Russell said he was happy to wait, so
Okay.
if that's okay with everyone.
Well, it's not up to Russell, but if you are not in a rush to go and pick up your kids or anything of the sort.
They're at Parapumu, so I got 5 minutes.
Cool.
Okay, so Liz Coe would have presented here at 12:10 as Liz Coe. I hope I read her writing all good. Kāpiti has been caught with its pants down. We do not have a strategic plan for development of tourism in Kāpiti. We have underspent on economic development for decades. What we have now is a knee-jerk reaction to a lolly scramble that has not been through a well-thought-out process. This building is not sufficient on its own to attract visitors to Kāpiti. On page 62 of the PwC report, you will see that something to the high fixed cost of the project viability is the risk to the high fixed cost of the project viability is extremely sensitive to revenue. At 75% of revenue, it is 10 years to break even. At 50% revenue, it is 20 years to break even. To mitigate this risk, we need to spend money on our overall strategy and marketing. There is a significant omission in the council paper. Under financial considerations on page 14, we should note that the need to allocate significant resources to strategy and marketing. This project has an identity crisis. Is it a biosecurity facility, a Kāpiti Island gateway, a Kāpiti Gateway, or a place for local iwi to tell their story? All of these things are important, but they don't need to all be located in one building on the waterfront. We need a comprehensive strategy to look at how this building fits into the bigger picture for Kāpiti. We need more money for economic development to achieve this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kia ora koutou anō. Thank you for allowing my face to be seen a second time, this time representing iwi again. First of all, I'd like to thank Council for the consultation process that they allowed iwi to have through our mandated iwi authority. Me to my cousin Chris, though, for bringing his point of view to the table as well. Being part of an iwi is like any extended whānau. It's really complicated. The politics are multi-layered. Iwi recognise that ratepayers, including themselves, will be making a contribution to the project and that there is a projected positive economic impact on the region in the years to come. Spending money in the form of a long-term investment to make money is something we support. Iwi would like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude to the Crown for pledging the 50% of the cost of the development through the COVID-19 Response and Recovery Fund. Iwi know a once-in-a-lifetime deal when we see one. This is such a deal. We also understand that not taking advantage of the COVID response funding, which is a one-time offer, will result in the entire cost of whatever version of this project coming to fruition is likely to be borne by the council in its entirety. While operator costs will rise, and this could impact on demand, we also know the allure of the island and its unique offering aren't going away. Demand for ecotourism and Māori tourism experiences are on the rise. Te Mara Atane Zealandia is a wonderful example of this reality. We believe this project is a long-term investment, and it is positioned well to take advantage of the attraction of ecotourism and the Māori tourism experience. Kia ora.
Any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Kia ora.
Yes.
Greetings. Guy Burns from Ramari South. I'm here to talk about the Gateway, obviously. The Gateway seems to be an overrated building. It's seen as an economic saviour for Kāpiti. It's seen as a cultural hub, a place for Māori to tell story. But in fact, we already have a gateway. We have Kāpiti Island. That is the gateway. It's been here for hundreds of years, thousands of years, millions of years. It's the gateway to the Kāpiti coast. People are coming here already because of Kāpiti Island. Making a building is not going to draw many more extra people to Kāpiti. In fact, it's going to be an extravagant waste of ratepayers' money. So there's 2 points I really want to just talk about on why I see people here today should vote no for the Gateway. And speaking of that, your recommendations, the way they're set out, it makes it look like as though you're voting for one of 3 options. I think the way it's written is very disingenuous, and it should have been written in a much more simple format. Vote yes or no for the Gateway, then the options if you go ahead. Anyway, that aside, first of all, it's very unpopular with the public. You are here to represent the public, you represent ratepayers, and yet the majority of people in Kāpiti, and I get around a lot, I talk to thousands of people, out of thousands of people, I've only met literally 3 people who are a little bit ambivalent, inclined towards the Gateway. It is totally unpopular with the public. If you're voting for it today, you will suffer the consequences in the next coming elections, I believe, because it's such an unpopular subject. And if you go ahead with this, it's going to cause long-term resentment in the community. Second point is that the Gateway will cost ratepayers through the teeth. It's not so clear in your report on that. It's not mentioned, but the building costs alone are set out in your report today. It states it's going to cost 4.5 million approximately. That's what it says in your report today. It's costing 4.5. 1 year ago, it's costing 4.5. I've talked to 2 engineers, one retired and one current, both very experienced and highly qualified, and they said to me, for the last several years, it's very hard to quantify building costs. But one thing you can guarantee, prices will go up dramatically. And they said the Gateway has the potential to double in price in terms of construction costs, to go over towards the $9 million mark. So who will carry the can for that? If you pass that today, it'll be the ratepayers. So do you really want to put your vote on such a scheme which has the potential to cause long-term suffering to ratepayers? And the other side of it, operational costs alone, ongoing, will cost 1% to our rates every year. And this talk I've heard already, the rates are going to be well over 5%. That's not good enough. So to finalise and finish off, I'd like to say, vote no for the Gateway and focus on a biosecurity building. And why isn't DOC paying towards it? If they think it's so great, they should be involved. Thank you.
Councillor McCann.
Kia ora for that impassioned speech. Could you tell me where the ongoing 1% to our rates comes from? What information?
Well, I'm not an accountant, but I've talked to a guy who follows these things very closely, a very old retired guy, and he says roughly $500,000 a year, roughly, equals 1% rates increase.
I don't rely on a guy from around the corner. I do have to rely on the information. The next question is, are you aware of the contingencies that are built into the cost of the project becoming more expensive?
No.
Since the building? Okay.
Councillor Randall.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand, Mr. Burns, apart from being a resident, Ramadi South, you're also a member of the local community board.
Yes.
And I have a letter here from one of your fellow community board members, and she expresses three main concerns about the gateway: consultation, car parks, and cost. Do you have any views on her opinions?
I totally agree. The fact that it's taking away car parks is a scandal, particularly for local businesses down there. They're up in arms about it. A lot of people park there and they access the shops, they access the community. I totally support those comments made by that board member. Thank you. Thank you.
Small correction, Tony Bevan. Thank you, that's all right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting. My standing, I'm an ordinary ratepayer, long-term resident, and a frequent visitor to Kāpiti Island. Now, I have emailed my submission to you, but I'll quickly go through it. I'm opposed to the proposal for the following reasons. The feasibility study is, I would say, weak. It's feeble. It really comes across as an attempt to justify an existing assumed position. It lacks objectivity and rigour. It starts with the need for a biosecurity check facility, then cobbles together a whole range of tourism activities, some not even related to Kāpiti Island, and lots of nice-to-haves to try to justify the expenditure. There are a lot of vague and unsubstantiated assumptions about benefits and visitor numbers and other possible activities. You know, I see the term, it is hoped that, it is expected that. That doesn't add up to a business case. That's just fond wishes. It seems to be contradictory in places, such as on the existing traffic problems and the effects on the already limited parking. I noted mention of having time-limited parking to manage demand, but visitors to Kāpiti Island need 7 hours at the minimum, I would think. So, not sure how that would work. The business case relies on a large increase in visitor numbers, ignoring the fact that visitor numbers have to be limited, preserve the special nature of the island. And I have noted recently Simon Upton's comments on the effects of increasing tourism on conservation values and the fact that we're probably going to have to constrain. So I think the visitor numbers just a fantasy. The proposed site is very constrained. It's very low lying and vulnerable to erosion and sea level rise. And it's another intrusion on the open space around the beach area. The study comments on the relatively high rating and indebtedness of the Kāpiti Coast District Council, but seems to then just go on to more or less disregard that and the impact on rates. If biosecurity is the primary need and issue, then that's the responsibility of DOC, not Kāpiti ratepayers. We shouldn't be paying for this. Turn the page. We could, well, say with the DOC, I suppose, where they see the need or not, and they don't seem to have. They've done nothing so far. But they could build a smaller and simpler facility just for the biosecurity checks. And, yeah, ideally that should be close to the boat launching area. There's no need for any of the other proposed functions to be there at that site. If there's a need for a visitor centre, then that has to be justified on its own merits. And I understand the council does own some land and buildings across the road, which may be proved to be suitable, but that needs to be investigated. objectively. The key issue to me is what is the problem the proposal and the expenditure is trying to solve, and who is responsible for that. And is that expenditure more important or critical than other priorities in the district, such as water supply and quality? And I just might emphasise quality. I don't think we can take, looking at recent examples in other parts of the country, don't think we could take it for granted. There's coastal erosion, there's the library, all those things, a higher priority than this, I believe. So, as a side comment too about the visitor centre in numbers, I don't think people are going to say, oh, there's a neat visitor centre out at Kāpiti, let's go there for the day. They're going to come for other reasons. And they'll go to Kāpiti Island for its values, nothing much to do with this area. We're a bit fortunate having Kāpiti Island out there, well, very fortunate. So in deciding on the proposal, I think councillors need to ask themselves if this expenditure is a priority and sensible use of ratepayers' money. I don't believe that it is, and my recommendation to you that it be declined. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weavens. Questions? Questions from councillors? No.
No, I have no special expertise in any of this matters.
Thank you very much.
You.
Weavens.
Thank you. May I ask for extra time, because I'm still in recovery mode after my head-on collision 4 weeks ago, and I'm going through a hill. But I'm particularly here today basically to talk about the Gateway. Now, if you look at State Highway 1, directions where Kāpiti Island was through pesting transit to put the signs up there both ways. So in one respect, I think the Kāpiti Island should be really promoted. I think the Gateway should be smaller. I think you need to revisit again, particularly with consultation with regards to not telling the community exactly what's going on. And to me, there's an opportunity here, and always has been, to promote the area. But what you're proposing at the moment, can the ratepayer afford it? No. It's not guaranteed that we're going to have a society that we have at the present moment thinking that, we'll just go along and keep getting the debt up. Are we in a situation like the swimming pool up there, a situation where it's going to take a long time to pay off? Now, the other thing is this. Let's think about the infrastructure. Where are we going there? Sean, tell me, why aren't they looking at the culverts, which were meant to be replaced
Mr. Evans,
in October?
You're talking to the councillors in the elected
Right, I'm sorry, right. Okay, the culverts should have been replaced in October, and they haven't even been looked at and done. Come on, are we going to have another one down the Ramati where it near enough collapsed, and then they had to close the road off and get onto it? I think the infrastructure needs to be fixed first before you start looking at these big global issues of promoting the area. With the island's there, it's not going to go away. We need to promote it in the right way. We'll get visitors eventually down there. It's not going to go away. So, personally, I think we all need to take a responsibility here. And all you councillors, if you vote to go ahead with this, I hope the community looks at you all when it comes to voting next time, because I tell you what, I'm sure they will not be voting for you. Thank you.
Any questions?
Come on, I want some questions.
I'll give you one.
Come on, you must be able to give something out. Give us your views. Please don't look like dummies. Yes?
The insinuation from you, sir, is that councillors should vote to save their role as councillors. Do you not think councillors should vote on the evidence given to them?
To a point, but there are a lot of issues which are not highlighted and not come out. And the issue, who's running this council? Staff. Yes. Not councillors. And you guys don't get the information they should. So start thinking about that and change the dimensions of what's going on here. We elected a mayor to operate, and who's running the place? It's the CEO.
Yeah.
So yes,
Just before when he told you off.
Right. Carry on.
Dale.
Councillor Holiday.
Thank you for your presentation, Dale, and I hope your health is improving.
Thank you.
In regards to the information we receive, we get it, the information that we receive. We
Yes.
obviously get all the
Okay.
reports.
Right.
Are you aware that we have gone out as individuals into the community to talk to people and get their points of view as well? You are aware of that?
Yes, I am, because I have mentioned that to you several times in the past, and every councillor and community board members have a sense of responsibility to find out exactly what the community wants. And this is something which is lacking. We've got, what you said, 3,000 people that signed that petition not to go ahead with it. Well, start listening. I think it should be started again in a smaller version. And what happened to my poor old kiosk? Spent $100,000 on it to repair it and then sold for $500. Good business. I'm sorry. What's going on here?
Thank you, Dale.
We need to have a good look at how we operate, and staff should have very little input into what goes on. It's your open mind, and always think about the community out there.
Thank you, Dale.
We're the ones paying.
Thank you, Dale. We'll just finish with. Shall we move?
What time is that? 3:30. Oh, yeah, you can do another speaker. Yeah, and then take a break.
Yeah. Next speaker, last speaker, really, George Hickton.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you very much for the opportunity of talking to you, and I'm sure you're glad I'm last. I chair the Governance Committee on behalf of this council. We were asked to provide oversight and direction on a number of issues surrounding this project. The economics of it, the environmental situation about it, the cultural significance of what was being proposed, and of course the architecture. As you know, we conducted an architectural review, selected a design and submitted it to the council, which was accepted. That design provides for in our view, a significant improvement in the northern end of McLean Park. It enhances the area and makes a massive improvement to the stream, so it achieves the goals that I think everybody wanted to achieve. Secondly, we looked at the biosecurity issue, and as we've heard from Doc, that's significantly enhanced, and we must recognise that what we're trying to provide is something that is a robust solution for the future. And the current, as John Barrett explained, is simply third world and a very poor imitation of what we need to get to. So it deals with that issue. Third issue, in terms of cultural connection, we've had an incredibly strong performance here by iwi about their aspirations and desires around it. They've also highlighted the fact that this has brought many of them together to gift the name and seek to partner with the council and with the community in what could possibly be created on that site. And I think that provides an enormous opportunity. It then comes back to the final part, which is cost and opportunity. And it seems to me to be where the arguments are. Cost, why wouldn't we take the government money? It's been suggested we should hand it back like good citizens. No other district has done that. They've taken as much as we can. We've taken less money than any other district in the country. Everybody else has had their hands in and are doing things with it. So it's available. We may as well have it. The net cost to the ratepayer per year, $3.70. It's the cost of a cup of coffee. The other point here, though, is the opportunity cost. And a lot of discussions going on about rise in tourism and will it be achieved, etc., etc. Just over the hill in South Wairarapa, over the last 12 months, the only region in New Zealand to gain net economic growth straight off the back of the Wellington visitor market. That's what's driven it. We're not getting that market in anywhere near the numbers that we are capable of getting it. This Gateway project simply provides an opportunity to start to get a focus around providing information and the opportunity for people to understand the district and understand Kāpiti Island and how they might get there. Currently, there are significant barriers to actually achieving or getting onto the island. The island is not full, and we have significant gaps in terms of the numbers of people going there. There's an opportunity there. Final point I'd make, and it's been raised here, what happens if a cap goes on, Kāpiti? If a cap goes on tourism experiences, what generally tends to happen is the price goes up. And that means an opportunity for operators to make more money. So just with those few words, I want to thank you, number one, for the opportunity of being part of this project. It has brought together a number of interested parties. They're all fully supportive of it, and we recommend that you obviously proceed with it. Ka pai, thank you. I'll take questions.
Councillor McCann and then Councillor Coates.
Sure. Thank you very much, George, for coming. I just want to ask a question. It's my understanding that Dunedin City Council did actually give back some funding. I can't remember from which fund, but I think we probably...
Okay.
Am I correct? Yeah. So yeah. I think there is a precedent for giving money back, but that is a decision that we need to make. The question I really have is around some of the process. As a governance group, have you considered that? Do you consider that the process that was outlined at the start of this project, and we're talking about when funding became available, hence upsetting the apple cart, has that process been smooth, or are there some significant things that changed that you've heard back from some of the submitters that you think have failed the whole project?
No, not really. I think one of the things to recognise is we started the project, then we went into lockdown during the initial stages. I think the consultation process was interfered by that. The other thing I'd point out that's been raised, I think, a lot today that I've heard of is that this is a concept design. This is not the final design. Whether it has a retail facility in it or not, that hasn't been decided yet. And those things are still up for grabs, and they can be taken into account. So there's a lot of consideration that can still be given to concerns or opportunities that people raise from now on.
Thank you. And it's not the appropriate time, but those considerations that we may not be at a point where we should be making one of those three decisions will play out later in council. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I've got a question, particularly around the size of the building. We've heard from a lot of people around support for the idea of a visitor centre, destination centre, obviously some against, but there has been general wide support for the idea of a visitor destination centre. A lot of the argument has been around the size of the building. We've heard from some that it's not big enough. We've heard from more that it's too big. What led to the decision around the size? Was a specific size given to the architects in terms of, and I appreciate there was one around the biosecurity, and what are the risks in terms of its ability to generate revenue if the site was smaller than what it's proposed? There's a few questions in there, but they're all, I think you can follow my line of questioning around the specific size of the building and whether
well, I think you do get in the argument, do you expand it out and provide some sort of opportunity for economic activity on it, or do you just keep it as a straight sort of information and check-in facility for the island, and also a place to have some form of display or art or whatever? That's a decision that needs to be made by the council as you go beyond the concept design. As far as the size of it is concerned, I can't remember what was put out there. There was a general specification that was put out and suggested. Most of the architectural plans came in at about that level. One of the things was obviously to ensure that it fitted as well as possible within the site, and that's what the Athfield one was chosen.
Thank you.
Councillor Compton.
Thank you. Through the chair, just for the benefit of elected members and the public here, I was having a look at your background, and it's quite impressive. I saw a media release from Kiwi Rail in 2019 that went through that you chaired the boards of Hawke's Bay Tourism, Weta Workshop, the property company associated with that, and Kāpiti Island Nature Tours. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings an end to the public speaking time, but I've got a procedural process to go through. Standing Orders 4.2, the meeting cannot continue more than 6 hours from the start, and we all know we started at 9:30. We had a long day, and must end at 3:30. So I'm going to move to suspend Standing Orders 4.2 to extend the meeting to conclude items on agenda.
Seconded.
Seconded. All those in favour say aye. Carried. I will now take a 10-minute break.